Well, for the second time in 3 or 4 months now, I'm in a place where everything that I was going to cover for like a Ben's junk is not working or missing parts. So I'm in one of those spots where I either am going to have to go through some more of my record collection, or I can give a channel update. And I think a channel update would be more practical here. So this isn't a Ben's junk candidate, and if you watch Archive regularly, you've already seen this, the Sony AV-3600 Videocorder, EIAJ Type 1 format. And if you saw that, you saw once I finally got it sort of going, I was having to ram the pinch roller up against the capstan to keep it going and just really ride the thing. Well, I've gotten some suggestions from viewers on how to work with that, and the best one so far has been to rough up the pinch roller with just a little nice, very fine grain sandpaper. Was this 320? So I've also been, I gave it another lubing. I've been just trying to, in stolen moments between episodes, regular episodes of Archive, just kind of work it some more. So it's not finished yet. I still need to see if I can get my hands on just simply another pinch roller. But it's at a point now, knock on wood, watch the instant I have the camera on, at least up until turning on the camera, where I can play a tape on this, and while I still have to give it a little encouragement to start, once it does, it's consistent, and the playback is still kind of jumpy, but it's more consistent than it was in the episode. So for starters here, I'm going to take a cut, I'm going to thread up some tape, and I'll show you how this thing is operating now. But yeah, I think I'm getting closer to really fixing this and being able to add EIAJ Type 1 to the Archive arsenal. I think I'm on the right track. So I'm still stuck with the same reel of, as I like to call it, BASF tape. And I've been keeping a running Fleabase search for it, and I'm just not finding any more, which is a shame because it seems to be the good stuff, as good as this kind of tape gets. Best lubricated and least prone to stickiness, just all around best survival rate. In case you're curious, the VU meter is still pinned, so I think I completely screwed that one in the episode, and I have absolutely no idea how to get down in there to see if I can unpin it. So that's still kind of useless. But anyway, as I already mentioned, I've got this to a point where it's more stable than it was, and so I'm not sure how much of it is from me having to ride the pinch roller initially, but it's better than it was. So knock on wood, let's see if this actually holds out on camera. The cynic in me says I'll have talked all this stuff and it'll change its mind on me. So let's get up on the pinch roller there. So I do have to, it wants to start by itself, but I usually still have to give it a little persuasion. But it's more stable than it was. If you saw that episode I did, it was really jumpy. But it's at a point where it's playing pretty nice. Again, I don't know how much of this is from my having to ride this thing when I was recording, because you can hear the audio still warble. However, it is running consistently, and it gets better as it goes on. But yeah, I'd really like another tape, and I don't want to record over this one. Since this was my first attempt at it, I'd like to keep it just for my own records. But at the very least, it has been staying consistent. So if you saw the episode, it was just one big jump. But now it's hanging on pretty good. And so the sandpaper seems to be somewhat doing its job. So I'm feeling more optimistic about this machine than I was when I was making the episode. Not going to say it's part of the arsenal yet, but that's the best it's been to date. So let me clear the deck here and let me show you the next project I am trying to work on.
There's another thing a straight man must know. He must repeat everything the comedian says.
Actually, before I tear this down, I want to show that the rewind is finally working. Normally it would choke, and I'd have to kind of persuade it, but it started to do it without getting mad at me. So just another little bit of progress that I wanted to share. All right, now let me tear this down once this finishes rewinding, and then I'll show you the next project. I think I kind of got a little overambitious with my summer projects this year because one of them wound up simply not happening. I wound up not touching it at all. And that is that I've been wanting to, I don't know if it would really work or not, but I've been wanting to take the Oddity Archive logo, I guess you could say, the colored bars one, the NTSC bars, and redo it, but with all my own gear, you know, my own generator. And so I picked this guy up, a Sencore VA62, I believe is what it is, from, call it 1985. And the shipping for it was more than the unit itself. But this thing was just, you could tell it had been sitting in storage for 30 years. It was just an absolute mess. So I cleaned it out and cleaned it up and disinfected it as best as I could. And it's still got some stains going on, but you don't feel them anymore. I can run my finger over it and not feel it. I did everything I could with this. But it's still pretty flaky. And of course, I don't have a background in broadcasting or TV repair at all, so I'm only doing the absolute most basic things with this. So for one, the knob here is a little dodgy. It's supposed to be reading channel numbers, but it's very, very easily thrown off. So one of the things that's been holding this guy up is that I can't even really quite test it. For one, the main output on this thing is a BNC, and I've got all sorts of BNC adapters, but this seems to be running video and audio through it. I could be wrong about that. I might get yelled at in the comments over it, but I don't have any great way of adapting it. So I've had to order parts from it. I wound up just ordering a bunch of parts, adapters for closed circuit TVs. But even then, this is on the back burner because this does not create the color bars that I anticipated. Even though it's listed on there, top center, it's its own design. And I get why they did it that way. It's probably more accurate in terms of testing TV gear, the way they have it set up. Now, Sencore did make a proper NTSC color bars generator. I have ordered it, found one on Fleabay. The shipping, again, was about as much as the unit, and it just hasn't shown up yet. I don't have any of the parts that I ordered yet, so it's truly on the back burner, and I don't know if it will even work if I got this going, because I would still need a character generator, and I'd like to find one that's nice and primitive looking that I could superimpose, but I would have to be able to match it up at least somewhat decently with digital on the computer, that is, text. So I could have the episode titles in there for archive and not have to completely reinvent the wheel every single time. So this may be just a total flight of fancy on my part, but this is about as much as I've been able to do with this one. So let me turn on the TV here. So at the very least, it does output some of what it's supposed to, but I don't know if it's the hookup I'm using, because this is also meant to test VCRs. And so I'm only using the VCR video only composite. So I don't know if that's a design or if there's something really wrong with the machine. But if I go through the choices, so that is actually supposed to be dots. And no matter how much I tweak the settings, it's lines instead of dots. That's supposed to be a crosshatch, and that's just a plain white screen. Another cross. That one is a little fatter than I expected, certainly compared to what's in the manual. And then the basic dot is a little stretched, and I don't know if that's the TV or the machine doing this. So let me try some of the other stuff. Chroma bar sweep, so I'll have to, I think this is one of the multi-burst ones. Let me start pushing buttons here. Ah, there we go. It only does the color stuff. So that much works. And then we can do a proper multi-burst here in color. But then we go to what's supposed to be a staircase style pattern, and I got nothing. And then I have nothing external to run it to, so it blocks out as it should. So I'm not, again, I have zero background in this stuff, so I'm just kind of doing what I think is safe with it, because I know there's a lot of electrical things that can happen here. But I've, kind of felt confident with it, played with the interlace stuff. So this is definitely still in the pipeline, and I don't know if this is going to be a Ben's junk or I'm going to try and make it into a full proper episode once I get all the parts together. This may very well wind up being next summer's project. But yeah, so there we go. Oh, and I should note before I switch to the next project here, since it's a Sencore, it's local. So that would be especially poetic, I think, if I could get my own reworking, even if it would be the same old color bars, just my own generated ones from a machine made right here in town. Well, this started as a Ben's junk, but the more I've looked into this, the more I think it needs to be a proper archive episode. But that means having to gather more equipment and making sure it all works and such. But this basic part, the stuff that's in the shot here, all works and is ready to go. It's just waiting for everything else. So what we got here is a Technicolor 510 Super 8 projector. And oh wow, Benny Boy got another Super 8 projector. But these ran on the Technicolor Magi-Cartridge. These babies. So we're kind of looking at the 8-track of film loop cartridges. Now, as you can see, the prepackaged ones are real exciting. So this is on improving your golf swing, and it's one in a series of 7, I believe. There's the art. Unfortunately, I've only got the one. 7 for boys and 7 for girls. So 14 if I wanted to collect the whole series. Don't think I'm going to. Now, of course, this was also intended to be used with home movies, so you could shoot stuff and ultimately play it back on a Magi-Cartridge. So that's a nice bit of story there. But what really interested me was I think the last, before they started their short-lived attempt at videotape, the Technicolor 1200. And I don't think these, and no, it's not just a suitcase, even though it looks like it, but I don't think these were ever released to the public. So these were used by car manufacturers, car dealers, and real estate brokers. And this one came from Century 21 Realty. So this is kind of in limbo, and this is what's really holding up the episode. So I'm going to have to set the camera down for a second here while I open this, but there's a couple of buttons on the sides that will release the front with the handle, and then I will lift up the machine. So give me a second. So I got that down. But it's a bit of a mess inside. It's a little loose, it's a little floppy, a little messed up. I haven't bothered to clean it. And this actually really pissed me off. I found this on Fleabay, of course, but it was the only one I had seen at any price. It was touted as working and shown as working in the listing. But I bought it and the damn seller just chucked it in a box and sent it my way and called it good. So now I've got this mess in front of me. But if it is actually functioning, it is I guess you could call it a TV for Super 8 film. So we got the screen here, speaker, controls, and you would watch a full-on Super 8 sound, probably color film. Well, I've only got one cartridge, and that met a very similar fate to the unit itself. So this one is just beyond redemption. I'll show you the whole side of the thing is missing. So when the day comes to finally do this, I'm going to just crack this sucker open completely and make this the sacrificial one and just run it through a regular projector. So, yeah, that's kind of what's holding this project up. And I've been wanting to do this for a while. I've actually had this sitting around for almost 3 years now. Like I said, it's been the other more esoteric members of the Technicolor family that have put this on ice for so long. All right, let me tie up some loose ends here and just give some stray thoughts. So the lighting in here is always awful, so I took my usual 2 lights out so I could work on this. And I actually bought another smaller light. I've been kind of stuck in a position where I've been having to shoot my box segments at night, so I've had to really up my game on the artificial lighting. So yeah, this is just so the room isn't completely dark and you're not watching this in total carpet vision. So anyway, let's see. Oh, I suppose I should thank Andrew for sending that in. That is a new release Betamax tape, a bunch of horror shorts. I have not had a chance to watch it yet. It looks pretty good to me, but it might be closer to Halloween before I finally pop it in. But he did a fantastic job of recreating the mid-80s, if I can zoom out a bit here, mid-80s RCA Columbia home video box. And even the hi-fi stereo logo and, you know, video store stickers and all. There's a Be Kind Rewind on the tape itself. And he also sent a really nice poster. It's just the same artwork as the tape, so I won't unfold that. So anyway, back to business. So I finally broke down after several years now and bought a Roku. I've never wanted one, really. Now, years ago, I bought one of the first Chromecasts under the impression that I could ultimately use it to mirror stuff off of my phone or iPad and, you know, watch it on a decent TV. Well, that never really did come to pass, and it just wound up collecting dust, so that was one reason I wasn't interested. And these things are just, I swear they're getting to be more intrusive every day. But I did finally buy one because when I was making last week's video on the USA Network, excuse me a second here, you know, I did that whole segment on Night Flight, and I took out a subscription to Night Flight Plus so I could, you know, dig into it. I had never seen any full episodes of Night Flight, just fragments. I'd seen tons of fragments on YouTube over the years, So I, took out a full proper paid subscription to it, and I was driving myself insane at the computer trying to watch proper Night Flight episodes just at my desktop. So I finally broke down, bought a Roku so I could actually have it on the TV. And like a bad joke, it accepted my email address and my password and everything, but now it's trying to force me to resubscribe. And I've contacted Night Flight Plus about this, and they have not responded to me. So that is still another thing that's up in the air. But if nothing else, I've gone through the channels on the Roku Live channel, and I found an all 80s music video channel, an all MST3K channel, and also on a related note to USA, I did a segment on the old game show block, the Buzzer channel, which is all classic game shows. However, we don't have that in Sioux Falls. Nobody carries it here. And we had it in Denver. However, the cable system didn't carry it because the cable systems only have to carry the main channels, not the sub-channels. So Comcast said, yeah, we're not going to do that. So anyway, I guess I'll just bring it up for a second, just for the hell of it. See if Fremantle comes down on me over it. Just to show it. It's been pretty nice and stable so far. I'm not really happy, an episode of Card Sharks, with the little box. It doesn't hold still. It gave you a piece of adhesive so I can put it down on my table and, rip up my table when I take it up. So what I've been doing is, it's just a mess. I just leave it, and I've been taking it to my bedroom at night and just hooking it up to that TV so I can watch maybe some YouTube stuff and have that all going. I don't intend to buy a second one of these. And it seems to be a Christmas episode of Card Sharks tonight. Anyway, I'll turn it off before Fremantle does decide to come down on me. The only other point of business I can think of is I mentioned in the Sony AV-3600 episode, and that's just my little note to clean it after using it. I mentioned that I had to shut things down more or less for almost a week while I waited for parts, which was just as well because I wanted to go back and re-record one of my old songs and a new one. And so I did that, and I never did release it, largely because it was still in the works at the time, but it is completed, I suppose, at this point. It's all recorded, but I'm being kind of a flaky artiste about the mix, and do I actually want to release this or not? Do I want to release just my old re-recording, just the new song together? Are they good enough? Is it going to be too long because I did them together and it came out to over 10 minutes? But I do intend for them to be played as a piece, so yeah, I'm just being kind of a typical artsy-fartsy type about it. Anyway, that is it for today, or more accurately, tonight. So that ought to bring you up to speed with what's going on in Archive Land. I mean, I've got other irons in the fire. Come the end of September, it's going to be Silent Film Day on September 29th, so I'm kicking around doing an episode on silent film, maybe some sort of basic survey or just my personal favorites or something like that. So that's something you might be seeing pretty soon. I'm starting to kick around this year's Halloween episode. Don't know if I can pull it off or not, but the idea is there. So anyway, that is it for now. I will talk to you again soon.
That's my bracelet. That's my bracelet, too.